Well, that's easy. Water, water, and water are the three biggest hazards. So firstly, I would say pre-harvest water. So water that could be contacting the fruit, whether in a spray, whether in overhead irrigation. It might be used to manage frost, or it might be used to cool the fruit. But that water needs to be safe, especially if the plants are stressed, because if the plants are wilting, hot, stressed, then they're much more likely to then absorb some of that water. If that water contains high levels of human pathogens, then they may be internalized in the fruit, and then you can never get rid of them. The second one is water dumps. So hot fruit suck. So you put hot fruit, cold area, the air spaces inside that fruit will contract, and that sucks water through that calyx area. And again, you then have internalization, and you will never get rid of those microbes again. And then the third is any water used, which is the final water that contacts the produce. So whether it's in a wax or a pesticide, or just in that final wash step. That's what's going to remain on the surface of the apple, and that may be what the consumer then eats. So that water also has to be super safe and sanitary. The most important thing with workers is that they understand that they are touching food that people are going to eat. People like their families, their friends, their relations, they're going to eat that fruit. And so what they do to that fruit is incredibly important. They have to think like their role is important. They are very important in this process. And so it's essential that if they go to the toilet, if they have a smoke, if they eat, they have to wash their hands properly afterwards. And even if they're washing their hands, and then also use gloves. So using single-use gloves is clearly the best. If they're using gloves that you would wear multiple times, then they must be washed very regularly. Otherwise, you're risking cross-contamination. So I think workers need to feel valued, they need to be trained, they need to understand their own importance in order to make sure that they use good hygiene when handling produce. Testing is very variable. So if you do 20 tests, one will come back with an incredibly high reading, 10 will come back with nothing, and then the others may be somewhere in between. So the variability in microbe populations is enormous. So in the trials that we did, for example, we were putting manure on lettuces. The one with the highest reading was the one which we put nothing on at all. Presumably, maybe a bird dropped on it or whatever. So it's that variability in the sampling makes it very difficult. The other thing is that, as an example, if you take a 100 ml water sample and you test it for E. coli, and it may come back negative. If you take a 1 litre sample and you do the same test, it'll come back positive. So it's just that sample size really affects the result that you get. So testing can be a good indicator that something has gone wrong, but testing is not an end in itself to verify that produce is safe to eat. Understanding what method they've used in the test will help you interpret the results. So getting a positive for, say, salmonella, using a Vitus test, which is incredibly sensitive, which uses enrichment, could indicate that yes, the bacteria is there, but it may not be viable. You need further testing in order to verify that that's actually an issue. It can just point to issues. It doesn't mean that food is unsafe to eat.